Okay, so I wanted to talk about a tool, actually what I would consider to be an antique tool now. You probably won't see in very many shops anymore, maybe in some commercial truck shops, some heavy truck shops where a lot of drum brakes are still used. This is the AAMCO brake drum mic, so it's going to be this tool right here. Now, I've worked in quite a few shops and I've never seen one of these in any shop I've worked in, even in some commercial truck shops I've worked in. But I like to bring these tools up and kind of go over how they work. I like analog tools better than I like digital tools. These force me to use my brain. So that's why I like these tools so much. So if you see on the board over there, I kind of have some examples of how the mic works. And we're gonna measure a couple of brake drums and see exactly how you set this tool up and how you use it. But since our brake drums are measured in thousandths of an inch or sometimes even millimeters, and you can see I have a conversion chart up there. Every inch is equal to 25.4 millimeters. So if I do have a metric brake drum, I can do the conversion and see what my total diameter of that brake drum is in inches by using that conversion chart there. So a little bit about how the AAMCO drum mic works. And there are actually some other videos on YouTube out on this tool that show some people setting it up and using it, and they have some great information. So you might check those out as well. So let's take a look at the drum mic first. So over here, we got two different sides of the mic. We have the mic that has the dial indicator, the side of that side of the mic, and we have the side of the mic that does not have the dial indicator. So right here on this side, it just has numbers. This measures up to a 15-inch, or actually this one may go a little larger than 15 inches on the brake drums. But, you know, it just says 12, 13, 10, 11, 8, 9, 6, 7. Then we have the other side of the mic that has the actual dial indicator on it right here. And it actually has 1/8 inch graduated lines in between each one of our inch graduations here on the barrel of this tool. So we need to convert every 1/8 of an inch into thousandths of an inch, since that's how we're going to be measuring our brake drums. And that conversion chart's right there. Every 1/8 of an inch is equal to 125 thousandths of an inch. So when you're measuring out your brake drums, a couple things. There will be a spec printed on the brake drum, same as a brake rotor. So if we look at any of these three drums on the table, and these two I believe are actually the same drums. So let's look at the larger one first. This larger brake drum here, max diameter of 11.24. So max diameter of this brake drum is going to be 11.24 inches. We have two different specs for brake drums, just like we do for brake rotors, that we need to be aware of. So this says maximum diameter of this brake drum is 11.24 inches, so almost 11.25 of an inch. Now, that's the throwaway number. So if I'm measuring out that brake drum, that's where I'm going to throw that brake drum away. I wouldn't want to use it if it was 11.24 inches or larger. You need to dig into your information for the vehicle that you're working on, you know, All Data, Mitchell, whatever you're using, and look for the maximum diameter of the brake drum after it has been machined. It's going to be a different number. That's the number we want to make sure that we do not exceed when we put that brake drum back on the vehicle and put it back in service. So let's say that my maximum diameter after machining of this brake drum is 11.10 inch. Then I would measure it out, and if it's greater than 11.10 inches, I'm not going to put it back in service. I'm going to get rid of it. Now, if it ever exceeds 11.24 inches, then this brake drum's bad. Just right out of the gate, and I'm going to throw it away and get a new brake drum. And we got a couple other different brake drums here. I've actually written 8.90 inches on this because this brake drum has a maximum diameter of 226.3 millimeters. So I have a metric drum here. So I use that formula, that conversion chart, to convert this into inches. So it comes out to a maximum diameter of 8.90 inches on this brake drum. Now, something that's important to note when you're getting ready to measure a brake drum is, has it been machined or is it brand new? That brake drum's brand new. This brake drum's been machined. That is going to make a difference. A brand new brake drum is going to have a lot more material on it, so it's going to make a difference as to how I set my gauge up here. So let's say we're going to measure this brake drum right here that has a maximum diameter of 8.90 inches. Well, when I look inside this brake drum, I do not see any evidence that this brake drum has been machined. It may have been machined once, because I do have some, now that I look at it a little closer, I have some machine marks there, like it may not have been machined correctly. So let's see if we can measure out this brake drum. So here's how we're going to do this. I take my tool, I'm going to set my base measurement right here on this side, the side without the dial indicator, and I'm going to set it to 8. There is actually a little pointer right there. So we'll put down the line that says 8 and 9. Okay. Okay, so my max diameter of my brake drum is 8 and 900 thousandths of an inch. So let's set this to 8 and 7/8 of an inch, or 8.875 inches, which is going to be my last line right there before I get to the 910 mark. Okay. And again, there's a pointer right there. Lock that knob down. And my measurement now from here to here is going to be 8.875 inches, and I'm going to take the rest of my measurement with my dial indicator. So you're not concerned about zeroing out this dial indicator. It doesn't work like a traditional dial. And I'm not 100% convinced that this one's even in good shape. This one's pretty old, and it doesn't look like it's moving correctly. See how my needle changes every time I release it? So this probably needs to be recalibrated. But for our purposes here, we're going to go ahead and use it. Okay, so here's what I'm looking for. When I take this measurement, let's see if I can get this in front of the camera. I'm looking for my deflection point where the needle reverses direction and starts to go the other way. So it looks like my needle is reversing direction right around the 60 mark on my dial indicator. Okay, that would be 60 thousandths of an inch. So how we would calculate what the size of our brake drum is, we're going to take our base measurement, which we had set to 8.875 inches. 8.875 inches. Okay, that's our base measurement. We have a reading of 60 on the dial indicator. So when I was rocking the brake drum mic back and forth in the brake drum itself, a couple things is you want to make sure that it stays level in the brake drum. You don't want it rocking back and forth like this. It's going to throw your reading off. You want to hold it level down here and then rock this end. And you can see that we're deflecting at 60. Okay? So just to show that one more time, when I'm rocking it back and forth in the brake drum itself, we're deflecting right there. The needle will stop at 60 in reverse direction every time I rock this back and forth in the brake drum. So I'm going to go with 60 thousandths of an inch. When you're calculating this, don't forget your decimal point. 60 thousandths of an inch is going to look like this. 0.060 inches. Okay? So to get my total brake drum measurement, I'm going to take 8.875 and I'm going to add 60 thousandths of an inch to it. So I'm going to take 8.875 and I add 60 thousandths of an inch to it. See if I can do this without a calculator. There's my total brake drum measurement right there. So my total brake drum measurement's 8.935 inches. If I look at my max diameter of this brake drum, 8.90 inches. Remember, we converted it from metric to standard, since I don't have a metric drum mic, that's a throwaway drum. That drum's trashed. It needs to go away. So it's just a little bit about how to use the AAMCO brake drum mics. Are there digital drum mics out there now? Yeah, sure there are. AAMCO doesn't make this particular style mic anymore. The one they have now is purely digital. But again, I like these because it makes me use my brain. I have to actually crunch the numbers on this and see if this is correct or not, instead of relying on a digital mic. The thing about digital mics, and they're great, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got digital calipers at the house in the toolbox. I've got analog calipers, which actually I prefer the analog calipers over the digital ones as well. But the thing about digital mics is, they take batteries. So, every time I go to get my digital caliper out of the toolbox, the battery's dead. I have to go get a new battery for it. But on top of that, sometimes when I hit the little zero button and zero it out, I don't necessarily trust that it's properly calibrated. Just like I would want to put this in a calibration gauge and check it too and see if it works correctly, because it may not be working correctly. So whether it's a digital tool or an analog tool, you want to make sure it's working the right way. Otherwise, you may be shooting yourself in the foot and not getting the correct reading. So just a little bit about how to use this. So I'm going to actually measure this larger brake drum here real quick so you can kind of see, a second setup on this. So we have a maximum diameter on this brake drum of 11.24 inches. So almost 11.25 of an inch. 11 and 240 thousandths of an inch is going to be your maximum diameter on this drum here. This brake drum has been machined, and the reason I know that is because we use this in some training classes, and it's been machined several times, so it's probably way oversized, but we'll figure that out here in just a minute when we measure it. So I'm going to set my mic up again. So let's take the side of the mic that does not have the dial indicator. We're going to set up our base measurement. There's a little line there that says 10 and 11. I'm going to set it up right there. Remember, always use your pointer. Lock that guy in. Okay. There's my 11-12 mark right there. 10, 11. It's 11.240 is maximum drum size. I'm going to set this up to 11 1/8 of an inch, or 11.125 inches. Let's see if I can get the rest of my measurement here with my dial indicator. I may have to increase this a little bit because that drum's been machined a lot. So I think it's actually way oversized. So I'm just going to drop this in here, and it's way too loose, meaning I'm going to have to make an adjustment here. So we're going to set this up to 11 1/8 again. And I'm just checking my fitment here. And I'm still not getting any movement of my dial indicator at 11 1/8 of an inch. So actually, when I set this up the first time, I set it up to 10 1/8 of an inch. I wasn't paying attention. So always pay attention to your numbers and don't do like I just did. So I'm gonna set this up to 11 1/4 or 11.250 inches. And let me see if I can get a measurement now. Remember, I think this drum is grossly oversized because it's been machined so many times. I don't know if I can actually hold this in front of the camera like I could the other drums. This one's a lot heavier. So I'm just going to stand it up right here inside of this drum and see if I can get a reading. So as I'm holding this end of the drum mic completely flat against the surface of the drum, I'm going to rock this side back and forth by holding the top of the dial indicator. And my deflection point of my needle here is actually at 115 thousandths of an inch. I have my base measurement from here to here set to 11.250, which is already oversized based on the max diameter of this brake drum at 11.240. So this drum is way oversized, and it explains the reason for that. Again, is because we've machined this drum over and over and over again in some brakes classes here as part of technician training. So let's see what our actual drum diameter is here. based off of those measurements. So take my base measurement of 11.250, and I add 115 thousandths of an inch to it. That means my total drum size is 11.365 inches, or 11 365 thousandths of an inch, which puts me, well, we're somewhere between 11 1/4 and 11 3/8. We're close to 11 3/8 of an inch. 3/8 is 0.375 or 0.365, so 10 thousandths under. Yeah, that drum I would never put back on a vehicle. What's the problem with putting an oversized brake drum with the inside diameter too large back on a vehicle? Well, we could blow out the seals in the piston that actuates the brake shoes, because there's too much travel there, and that's going to create a leak and probably a loss of brakes. And the fact that when we oversize brake drums, or we machine brake rotors too thin, and we take a lot of this material out of it, then it cannot dissipate heat like it's supposed to. So this drum being so oversized, even though I might be able to put it back on and adjust the brake shoes to make good contact here, I run the risk of overextending my piston in my wheel cylinder and creating a leak. But this is not going to be able to dissipate heat, and this thing's going to warp, and it's going to get a lot of radial run out in it, and you're going to end up with a lot of brake pulsation. So just a little bit on using the AAMCO brake drum mic. I hope this helps out.